Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good evening to all. I am Ifa.
And I am Nakiba. Welcome to the Art of Life.
Embrace the possible.
Yes.
So Nakiba, for tonight we have a very interesting topic to discuss, and what's not is very interesting guest.
Oh yes, I heard very interesting indeed. Tonight's topic will be history and experience. Meaningful insight, where we'll have a very, very special guest to discuss the topic with us.
So if all of you want to know, tonight's guest was made Professor Emeritus in 2018 by University Science Malaysia USM, and his latest pentafsiran baharu Falsafah Pendidikan Kebangsaan dan Perlaksanaan Pasca 2020 won 2019 National Book Award under the Premier category. And the most important part is that he is currently the 6th Rector of International Islamic University Malaysia.
Yes, so without any more delay, let's welcome our guest for tonight's show, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Datuk Zulkifli bin Abdul Razak, the Honourable Rector of IIUM. Assalamualaikum, Tan Sri. How are you doing?
Thank you very much.
Are you feeling good?
Very good.
Very good, Alhamdulillah. How about the audience in the studio right now? Feeling good? Everyone thumbs up? Oh, Alhamdulillah. All right. So, Tan Sri, have you had your dinner yet?
Partly.
Partly, okay. At least you did have something.
Yes.
Okay, right. Before we proceed with the interview with our Tan Sri Rector, number one, I just wanted to remind you guys to give our tonight show a big thumbs up because we're gonna live in YouTube channel.
Yes. Okay, so without further ado, Tan Sri, why don't we dive right into our first question, shall we?
Sure.
Okay, so from what I know, you've been on an arduous yet colorful journey in your education and also career. Could you tell the audience out there maybe the part of your journey? How was the journey?
Well, if you're talking about since my student days, I think in a way I am lucky because then the opportunity for education is not very many.
True.
I think I joined the second oldest university in the country, which is then called University of Penang, which later was renamed University Science Malaysia.
Yes.
There's only two universities then. You have University of Malaya and USM, University of Penang then. So why I say it's lucky, because the University of Penang is situated in Penang. And Penang is a very different place in terms of activities. It's the heart of activism. People are very, very cosmopolitan. Environment is quite different, you know. So I benefited from that. You know, not just university, but my surrounding is a surrounding that encourages you to explore, to learn new things outside the classroom. So if you talk about the color, here's a color that comes in. The classroom itself is quite dull because, you know, it's very regular, very regimented, like many other classroom. But when you go out and you meet different people that are related to activities that concerns you, for example, consumer activities, environmental activities, were already then. I mean, there wasn't fashionable then. So we have the first taste of what this looks like. So that, I think, launched my sort of attitude to what education is all about. And when I joined the academia, that would be the thrust of what I do. You probably, if you see this in IIUM, it is because of that. You know, you must involve yourself with the community. You must be part of the community. You must make a difference. Not just studying, passing with good grades and so on and so forth, which tend to be the norm for many universities.
For a lot of people these days.
Yes.
How about your career journey?
My
Career journey.
career journey is also an extension of that. So what I learned as a student is something that what I want to give to my students. So I will encourage them to do what I did. You know, go out of the classroom, do things that is not your main core. For example, if I'm a pharmacy student, I go and attend a political science class. You know, I go and attend other classes so that the breadth of knowledge that I've got will make you a little bit more comfortable when you communicate and talk to people. So that kind of flexibility is something that I think we all should embrace if you talk about making colorful life as such.
Yeah, so from there we can know that the rector thinks about the students, not just for you, but based on your experience, you apply it to the students of
Exactly.
IIUM. Alhamdulillah.
And that's what education is all about.
Yes.
I need to pass it on.
Yes.
You know,
True.
not passing it on means there's no education.
Yeah. Agree.
Yeah. Whether they agree or disagree, that's a different question. That's also part of education.
Yeah.
We can disagree, we can debate about it, we can dissent, not a problem. But let's find out what is it that you want to do so that you feel comfortable and you like it.
So maybe you have already talked about your journey from as a student, and then you start your career, and then you deliver what have you been through as a student, and then deliver whenever you start your career journey. So when you start to become a rector of IIUM, maybe you would like to share to the audience out there what is maybe your plan, or what was your plan or vision to IIUM?
Before being a rector in IIUM, I must pay respect to my old alma mater, USM, because I was a vice chancellor there also. And to be a vice chancellor at that particular point is again another spectacular experience, because during that time there was no University College Act. We were quote unquote fairly free. Autonomous is a real word. You know, so when I was a student, we get to learn how to organize the way we want it without any reference to the university, because we take responsibility over what we do. So when I became the vice chancellor in USM, that was a situation that we are trying to moderate, to get the student to be involved, so that they are not quote unquote what I would say patronized in any way. Yeah. So that's a lesson that I learned from USM, which is possible. And when I come here, I would want again to translate that into what the experience was. Yeah. But of course, I do recognize it is a different university, an Islamic university, international university, different culture, different emphasis. And that's the part that we need to learn. You know, I take maybe a year and a half to learn what this is all about. So when you go into an environment, you don't automatically try and impose. You try and see where you can mediate what is good and what is possible, what is not possible. So it takes time to learn. But alhamdulillah, I find this university is another quote unquote gold mine.
Gold mine, wow.
There's a lot of potentials here that could be dug up and made into something which people would envy in a positive way, not in a negative way. And that's what I was trying to do in the last 5 years now, to see what are the dimensions that I think it is possible to be implemented in university without so much shifting the vision and the mission of university. That needs to stay put, because that's what you are. The moment I move that, then IIUM is not IIUM anymore.
It's not going to be IIUM.
Yes. So to preserve that, but to add on the color, as it were. So that makes a challenge for me as far as IIUM is concerned.
It's very interesting, because you try to at first you try to adapt in IIUM to the culture of IIUM and so on.
Yes.
So, because the transition from USM and then IIUM.
Right. There's a big difference. One is non-Islamic, quote unquote. One is Islamic.
And international.
Yes.
And speak Arabic. So those are the small things, but makes a lot of difference in trying to manage it.
Yeah, true.
Okay, Tan Sri, I'm sure IIM has a lot of achievements throughout 36 years.
Going 40 next year.
39 years.
Going 40 next year.
39 years.
Yeah.
So what are the IIM achievements that you are most proud of?
Well, I can see IIUM it being a unique university. Unique in the sense that its mission statement alone, I have not seen any resemblance with other universities. We talk about Rahmatan lil Alamin.
True.
You know, any local university will talk about just their. Today I was with UPM, and they want to be an international university of repute. Yeah, but we are not limited to that. We talk about Rahmatan lil Alamin, we talk about the world at large, we talk about the Muslim, non-Muslim community, and this word mercy to all is something which is bigger than life, I think. So how do you adjust that to make it real is something which is quite challenging. Right? So that uniqueness, I think, is something that we need to capture. That uniqueness is something that you need to make it real, yeah, so that it doesn't become just an empty ambition, and that's the toughest part.
Yes.
How many of us do understand what Rahmatan lil Alamin is all about? If you can't even feed a cat,
Yes.
True.
when you see a cat and you kick the cat, then it's no longer Rahmatan lil Alamin. Yeah, even among yourself, if you start to, do something which is not permissible, that's not Rahmatan lil Alamin. If you focus too much on Islam and forget about the non-Muslim, that's not Rahmatan lil Alamin. So how do you convey that message? By and large, is a challenge that I think all of us needs to grapple with.
Yes.
Not only me, but it will be demonstrated by the staff and the student, because at the end of the day, it's a teamwork.
Yes.
Yes, true.
We're a whole community.
Exactly. And people are very particular about it because we are, quote unquote, selling the label of Rahmatan lil Alamin, but they don't see the demonstration, they don't see it happening. So we are not walking the talk. Again, something which is very critical as far as conveying education is concerned.
So we have a lot more questions to ask Tan Sri tonight. But Tan Sri, I'm sure you want to take a little sip of water first, right?
Without the
Maybe?
camera, I would do that.
Yes, so why don't we take a little break for a while?
Yeah.
Stay tuned only on IIUMTV, only on Embrace the Art of Life, Embrace the Possible by IIUMTV.
Welcome back to the Arts of Life, Embrace the Possible, where we have a very special guest tonight. We will going to discuss about the history and experiences, a meaningful insight. So let's welcome back the Honorable Rector of IIUM, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Dato' Zulkifli bin Abdul
Make it
Razak.
short. Just
Make it short.
Tan Sri Zulkifli bin
Tan Sri
Abdul Razak.
Zulkifli.
Okay.
Tan Sri Rector. Okay.
right.
So we'll continue the discussion. Before this, we already discussed about your experience and what your plan for the IIUM when you become the rector, the sixth rector of IIUM currently. So now we would like to know from you, from your point of view, about the education in general. So education, we know that it shall not to not be perceived as merely only like only for assignment, marks, and also the grades. And people, most of the people only view education as something that can be evaluated only from the assignment and marks and so on. So, do you agree that education is beyond the class setting?
Oh,
Actually,
certainly, certainly. I mean, to me, education is about organizing life.
True.
Yeah, that's the one-liner if you want. Yeah. In other words, if you don't know how to organize life, then you need to educate yourself, because at the end of the day, it's about living
Yes.
and the art of living. We have turned education to the art of making a living. So all of you want to join this course because you think you can get a job, cushion and well compensated, you can be popular, you can be famous, blah, 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 all those. Which is not wrong, but I think that's not the main. The main thing is that how do we, at the end of the day, organize life and make a living at the same time. Right? And this, I think, has been well demonstrated when we talk about the COVID environment. I think the COVID tells us you may have got a good degree, emeritus professors, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, it's about how do you manage with COVID. You know, and at that point, you see people who are not quote unquote educated in a formal sense sometimes do better than we do.
True.
You know?
I have seen a lot of people
Yes,
who
yes.
did not go to university
Exactly.
and all, do better than
Exactly.
us.
So, what is education at that particular point? You know, so education has been crafted in such a way that it becomes very stereotyped. You must have a thing called school, university, colleges, you know, a place where you actually spend time to learn and stuff like that. But way beyond that, I think education has been there for a long time, since the day of Socrates, Plato. Don't tell me these people are not educated. They don't have schools.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah. So in other words, we will come back to the crux of it. Education is everywhere and anywhere. We understand it now because there's technology to do that. But even without the technology, I think that has been the case. So wherever you are, there's always a room for improvement. In other words, time to learn and time to educate yourself, given your surrounding. So when you talk about anytime, anywhere, any place kind of education, that is education in the true sense of the word. Right? This is part of education. You know, so it doesn't. So some people say, if I go and do this, I don't get any marks, and therefore I'm not going to do it because you know. So I think you just missed the point.
Yeah, true.
So the more you go into something which is not quote unquote formal, then I think you learn a lot more. I mean, this is where I go back to my own experience when we go and talk to a person who is quote unquote, from our point of view, uneducated, but there's a lot of wisdom in what they say. They are not textbook stuff. I mean, the recent one is when we send our students to do banjir.
Oh,
Yeah. Most of them come back and report to me and say, look, we learn a lot more in the community. It's not a non-textbook stuff. You know, I can think for myself. I can act and work to solve problems, you know, which I don't have a chance when I'm in the classroom. So some people make a comparison. 3 days in the kampung is better than 3 years in a university.
Interesting point there.
Yeah, because it seems like it's much more practical, and we can join the activity physically rather than just listen and sit down in the class, listen to the lecture.
That's why I am now talking about experiential learning. We want you to experience it, learning by doing, as it were. You know, you learn as you do things, you learn, and you become more confident of what you are doing, and you become more committed also because you know what is it that you have arrived at or perform or achieve at the end of the day. Rather than grade A, B, C, D. Well, it means something, but not as much as experiencing it and, you know, and living it, as it were.
But however, Tansri, some people may think that education is not that important. Hence, they start to neglect education entirely. What is your perspective on this situation, and how important is education, you think, is in our life?
Well, that may be true if you talk about education in a very formal in a formal way. I mean, let's take an example of this young lady, Greta Thunberg. I'm sure you have heard of this name.
No.
No, before.
Talk about education.
Alamak. Are we in trouble?
This is a 15 years old Swedish girl who since 2018 refused to go to school.
Oh.
Yeah. And she stayed in front of the Swedish parliament and protested, I'm not going to go to school because I'm not benefiting anything from the school. You know, and she stayed there for upper days on end, and finally she managed to persuade the government to make some changes.
She won the case.
And by then she already accumulated millions of followers around the world.
Wow.
She's got, I think, an association called Friday for Futures. Yeah, where youngsters are demanding the kind of education they need that is relevant to their future.
Instead of just theoretical
Exactly. Yeah. So this is where, in that sense, I think Greta Thunberg was right. That she doesn't believe education, quote unquote, the way has been stereotyped. She wants a different kind of education that is related to her life and her future. So it depends on where you come from. And what sort of future are you envisaging, right? So if you're a stereotype and you think education is about earning money and living a way that has been prescribed before you, you may feel comfortable with that. But some people certainly do not want that. They want something else, something more imaginary, something more challenging. You know, then it depends really on how do you understand education. Therefore, to understand what education is all about is very important, and that's why we wrote the book on falsafah pendidikan berbangsa. You know.
So, based on Tan Sri's answer just now, I can see that he's very open-minded.
Yeah,
He
true.
validated other people's opinions
Yeah.
that said, education is not important, but he somehow makes it work.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Tan Sri point out about the Swedish girl that reject to join the school and receive the education at the school. So maybe what say you to the people that they argue that some successful people such as like Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, and Bill Gates, they drop out from university and didn't finish their study. So what say you about that?
Well, that's exactly what it is. They don't finish their study, but they still educate themselves.
Yes.
True.
We start off with saying that education is anywhere and everywhere. You know, even you dropped out their school. And when they dropped out their school, they are working on ideas. Bill Gates drops out of Harvard because she's got an idea to pursue.
True.
That makes what he is now. You know, so they don't drop out ideas out of school because they feel it is irrelevant. But she's got some ideas to pursue, some ideas to make things work, to change the world. That is, I think, what education is all about. You know, you've got a string of degrees, but you can't even change your lifestyle. Then I think you're a damn failure.
Working from 9 to 5.
Yeah, yeah. You know, and do the same thing again and again. And some people say, I've got a 30 years experience, but actually a 1 year experience repeated 30 times. You know?
Oh, I can see what you're trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, some of our lectures may be like that. You know, I know of one lecturer, the son said to me, my father had the same lecture from this same
Every
same lecture
semester.
notes.
Same lecture notes.
Same like sampai kuning lecture notes.
Kuning.
So I mean that tells us what education is all about. It has to change all the time. My take is that education is about change. You were not like this when you came in, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I've changed a lot.
You have changed a lot. So what is that? It's the process of education. You know. So if you don't change, then to me education is a failure. And of course, you need to change for the better. You don't want to change for the worse, right? So if there is no change, then to me, education is not what it is, and we need to take a look at what has gone wrong.
So this kind of people, they success not because they dropped out from the university, because they fail of the study and so on, but they have much bigger ambition to change the world. They have their own intention to continue the education, but from the other side.
Right.
Yeah. So we will gonna have a lot more discussion after this. If you guys Don't know the topic yet? For tonight's show, it is history and experiences, a meaningful insight. We'll be right back only on The Art of Life, Embrace the Possible by IIUMTV.
Welcome back to The Art of Life, Embrace the Possible. So, if you guys do not know yet, our topic for tonight is history and experiences, a meaningful insight, with a special guest joining us to share about your experiences. Okay, let's welcome Tan Sri. Tan Sri 𝒂𝒏𝒊𝒔𝒕 sorry. Okay, Tan Sri, saya nak tanya lah kan. Do you think the university ranking is necessary? And if so, why?
I don't think it is necessary. I don't think university is about ranking. The reason is very simple, because no two university must be the same. So if they are different, how do you rank them? Can I rank you and you? You look different. You know. So what is the basis of ranking? Diversity is a key word for education. All right. So if IIUM is the same as USM, then one of it is redundant.
Just repeating the same.
Yeah. Yes. So it's not a one size fits all. That has been my belief since I took over USM. I mean, that's a lesson that I learned. Yeah? I want to make USM different from all the other universities that I know. Then only you stand out.
True.
Then only you distinguish yourself. You know, if USM looks like UKM or MU or IIUM for that matter, then what is the purpose of having USM? So that alone to me negates this whole idea of comparing people and try to rank it is even worse, because what I am good at is something else what other people are not good at. For example, here we have integration of knowledge. I don't see any universities around the country has got integration of knowledge. So if I were to subscribe a kind of a ranking that do not believe in integration of knowledge, then either I'm not in the game, or if I'm in the game, I'm a loser because I don't do what they do. So this whole idea of ranking to me comes only very lately when we are looking at a big shift in the developed world particularly. We realize that the rate of birth in many developed countries are low. They don't have students to go into their universities anymore. Right? And in fact, I can quote one country that the university is beginning to close down because there's no students.
Oh,
So where do they get their students? Abroad.
yes.
And how do they get students abroad? By advocating they are the best of the best.
Yes, true.
You know, so now it works because I want to go to this university because it's ranked number 1. I want to go to the university because it ranks number 2. If there's no ranking, we don't care about this university. So it has a commercial interest at the end of the day, and that commercial interest somehow or rather will tamper with our own desire to create a unique and a different university. So I don't believe ranking in that way, but I am vindicated lately because I think the Ivy League, Harvard and Yale, has also this own ranking.
Okay.
And they do so because they say the methodology is not right.
Oh.
We've been saying the same thing, but nobody listens to us because probably our skin is not white enough.
And this,
Yeah.
because the whiteness.
Exactly. I mean, there's the racism is also there, whether you like it or not. So we need to be very clear of what we want to do with the university. If you are into the ranking game, what will be, the downside for it? Yeah. So I believe if we go into ranking, then many of the things that IIUM want to do will be neutralized. Because you need to compare with other of the same
And we have to
category.
with the other universities also.
So we will lose out. So I think it is too much a cost to bear. So I say, well, let's stay out, but let's do and make ourselves known in different ways. So, for example, we became the Institution of the Year for Sustainability in the year 2020.
Yeah.
We are the only university in the country.
Oh.
We are the only university in Asia to do that.
Wow.
Meaning to say that there are things that we can do better, but without resorting to ranking.
Trying to be the best. But we
Right.
try to be the best, but not try to compete with others. We try our best.
We have
on
our own. We have our own way. Yeah.
Yes.
So, recently, university cut courses because they are irrelevant and to the market needs. So, do you think that course and specialization provided in IIUM need to be improved, or they are still compatible with the job demands?
I am also not too happy if university works only for the industry. University is for the people,
Yes.
and that includes the community at large.
True. Yeah.
It may not be relevant to the industry, fine, but it may be relevant to the community. So why are we pandering ourselves to the industry alone when we have got, let's say, so I say the rahmatan lil alamin. We don't talk about rahmatan industry, no? We talk rahmatan lil alamin. So we need to be very clear of what we want to do. So I am against of doing things just because the industry provide employment, but even that is fake, because the moment COVID hits, the first the first thing to close down is the industry.
Yeah.
They will tell us, and we are not taking a student anymore because of profit is low and so on and so forth. So this partnership with industry is a partnership that is not fair. They tend to benefit them rather than us. And what I found out during the COVID, the community is a better partner.
Oh.
We work with them. They support us and we support them. But when we look at our major courses, none of the courses actually are directed to the community per se.
Oh.
And that's why we now revise our USRA, make USRA in action. We revise our community engagement. I don't know, your students now need to do projects. So that instead of just, if you go to industry, you know how to behave. For the men, you need to wear coat and tie and jacket, shoes and socks and stuff like that. Yeah. But if you go to the community, you don't know how to behave. You don't put coat and tie and socks in the community, they'll kick you out. How do you dress? And how do you actually behave? How do you actually pay respect to them? It's just quite different from the industry. So that is a sector that we need to also learn at the same time. And talk about education, it has to be broad-based. Because you don't know where you're going to end up. So I think to segment it just for the industry, and even industry, I think is a selected industry.
True.
Yeah, some industry you don't care also because maybe they don't pay too much or things like that. So these are the things that distort education at the end of the day, while we claim it is not education from my point of view, and we need to be very clear about that.
Yeah, understood. So
Agree?
Yes.
agree.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Very agree with that opinion. Yeah, so that we just not apply we not apply education to serve the industry only,
Yeah.
but we have to focus on our trademark, which is Rahmatan lil Alamin, for all community, not even the human, but also all the other creatures. Something like
Exactly.
Tan Sri Rector mentioned earlier, the cat.
Yes, betul.
Okay.
Tan Sri, I know that Malaysia has launched the National Development Sustainable Development Goals, which is the SDG, and IIM has taken an initiative to include SDG as a part of the education system. Okay, so how do SDGs in education contribute to the betterment of not just IIM students, but to humanity itself?
Okay, let's start off with what is SDG. Why?
Okay, sure.
I think SDG is an idea that has been there for the last 30 years. Why suddenly we want to talk about SDG? I think the realization then, the world is not fair. There's a lot of inequality between the rich and the poor, the developed and the developing, and therefore we will say that the world cannot sustain itself. We will not be able to live in peace. You may be the richest country in the world, but you're surrounded by poor people. They will knock on your door and knock on you also sometimes because they want their rights, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, they organized this whole platform called Sustainable Development. What is the purpose? Is to equalize.
Okay.
Isn't that Islamic?
Yes.
Yes. I think
In my opinion, yes.
yeah.
In my opinion, yes. Yeah. So in other words, you want to make education as a leveler of society. People come out of education, they have equal opportunity, and therefore they can move out of poverty, they can also fend for their life, and they can also contribute to others. Yeah. Based on that alone, I feel it comes very close to the vision of the university that talks about betterment of human life and civilization. You may call it sustainable development. Some people want to call it Islamic sustainable development. Without the word Islamic, it's already Islamic. Why do you want to put Islamic there? Yeah. So that is why I think it is very important for us to understand where we are coming from. And the Rahmatan lil Alamin in this particular case goes into this at the same time, because if you look at the 17 goals of sustainable development, we are not talking only about poverty, hunger, health for human being. We are also talking about life underwater.
Yes.
Environment, nature.
Yeah, and these are certainly fish. We are not us.
Yeah.
We don't live underwater.
True.
So maknanya is broad based enough to cater the Rahmatan lil Alamin that we talked about. So I'm very comfortable in putting that on the table as part of what Muslim can do.
Yeah.
In trying to equalize, in trying to make it better, in trying to make it, as just as possible to everybody, Muslim or non-Muslims, human life or other forms of life.
Okay. Tan Sri Rector, we have a lot more questions to ask you.
Yes.
We need to know a lot more. But before that, why don't we take just another break? Should we? Okay, so stay tuned only on The Art of Life, Embrace the Possible by IIUMTV.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Arts of Life. Embrace the possible. We have a very special guest to discuss our topic for tonight: history and experiences, a meaningful insight. Let's welcome back our Honorable Rector of IIUM, Tan Sri Rector Tan Sri Zulkifli bin Abdul Razak.
Yes.
Okay.
Welcome back, Tan Sri.
Welcome back,
Thank you.
Tan Sri. You have already taken a sip of water. Okay, so we continue our discussion to talk about more about the education. Before this, we already talked about education, but we continue our discussion tonight to talk more about this.
Yep.
So maybe what say you? Maybe what you want to share to our audience out there about the value and skill that we should prepare ourselves to enter the outside world.
Yeah, that I think already is embraced by your or by our what's called tagline, the garden of knowledge and virtue.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
IIUM, the garden of knowledge and virtue. The way I read this is basically we are not only a campus with buildings and facilities and what have you, the mahala and whatever else. We are also concerned about the environment. And the environment, anything that begins with us and ends us anyway. You know, so those are the environments that I would categorize as the garden. All right. So how many of us actually walk into the university and realize that there are trees, there are flowers, there are rivers, although the rivers are not doing very well, but that's another story. That, you know, that environment alone is very captivating. We've got hills, we've got this and that. How many of us do realize that? I don't think many people would.
For me, personally, every day walking to class from Mahala Hafsa back then, I would always look at the river on the way to IIUM.
Right.
Every day I would see
And
the
wishing that
changes.
it's blue.
Yeah, back then it was okay lah. Now, sedih sikit.
Yeah, but we are working very hard. We have now got a small monument about the Gombak River construction program. And we are trying to work on this. But in other words, what I'm trying to say is that we don't neglect all of this. We look at the river is dirty. How do you actually clean it up? We don't throw garbage into it and to make it worse.
Yes.
You know, we walk around the fields. How do you pick up the pieces of paper, the debris, the bottles and stuff like that? So that is part of education. That is part of the external part of the education to actually contribute in making the ambient very conducive, very attractive as part and parcel of the university. So I always use this metaphor. Same in USM, we have got the same metaphor. We call the university in a garden. Yeah, here is the garden of knowledge and virtue. And why the garden is so important? Because the garden tells us many things. Garden is about diversity. Yeah. If you have only just one sort of plant, then you get a plantation. You don't get a garden.
Yes. True.
And we are not a plantation, we are a garden. And that means we accept diversity in all its form.
True.
You know, and that's the beauty of education. The more diverse education, the more source of inspiration you got, the more learning experience you have, the more challenging is it how to live with other people. And that's, I think, why the garden is so important, that you also support one another. At the end of the day, you talk about the garden, we will see only ground up. All right, beautiful trees, beautiful leaves, beautiful flowers, beautiful fruits. But we forget what is below the ground.
Yeah, we have to see where the roots come from.
Yes.
How are the roots healthy or not?
Exactly. And without the roots, you will never see a
The
healthy.
beautiful
Yeah.
garden.
You never get a
Yes.
beautiful garden without roots.
Yes, true.
So what we are supposed to be concerned with is to make sure and nurture that the roots are strong.
True.
And the roots to me is a metaphor of values.
Okay.
If you don't have the values, the virtues that you talked about, then your tree will never grow. So, you know, the knowledge may be something that you see because you can capture it, but the virtues are the one that's beneath it, underground. So it means a lot when you talk about the garden of knowledge and virtues. Without the virtues, there's no trees. People will always look at knowledge as a form of tree. If you look at the metaphor, kan, selalunya tree with branches and stuff like that.
Branches, different leaves.
Yes. So how do you make that into a real translation? That we in IIUM must have the strong virtues so that we grow strong trees, so that we become knowledgeable, so that we can also contribute to other people at the same time. I mean, it's a beautiful metaphor, but we need to ponder on it so that we live by that metaphor, and we are ourselves that tree. You know, because unless we have that strong virtue, we will not be able to develop that knowledge and also deliver and share this knowledge with other people, just as much as the tree shares its fruits and flowers and so on and so forth. So when you ask me the external part, that is what it is. And that tree can go beyond Gombak to Malaysia, to other parts of the world. A garden is a garden anyway.
Yeah, true.
And trees can grow anywhere, not just right here
Exactly.
in our garden. It
True.
can grow. We can bring those trees to other gardens also.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, Tan Sri, I want to know, how did you envision the future of IIM? How do you see ourselves maybe in the year 2040?
Good question. You must have read my mind. Okay, I think as we move ahead last year, we wanted to know where are we heading. All right, and this becomes a collective. I must say a few things about myself. I come from the outside. I'm not inbred. I'm not IIUM staff as the previous rectors were. Right, I came from outside, and I'm a science student. The previous rectors,
Yes,
I don't think they're science student. They're better than me in terms of social science, humanities,
Everyone
religious.
is good in their own ways.
Yeah. So in other words, the thinking that I brought is probably slightly different. Yeah, as a science person, and therefore I am always asking where are we heading and what would be the journey that we took or we are going to take. So we organize what we call the futures. Futures is about trying to predict, trying to envisage where we will be at a moment in time, and then there's a methodology on it. Yeah? So we collected maybe 30 people of different experiences, different age group, different gender, and we spent I think 3 or 4 days just to further understand where we are heading. At the end of the day, we end up with the futures of 2040. Maknanya 20 years from now, we know now where we are going to go. So maybe we want to go to Seremban, and we want to go to Seremban, you want to know how Seremban looks like. So we know where we have arrived, you know. If you want to go to Seremban and you don't know what Seremban looks like, then you may not know where you have arrived. So we have that vision, and if you go into our foyer, there is this picture on the wall that talks about the future university, how we depict it in an art form. It be part of your imagination. This is what I want to go, where I want to go, and this is how it looks like. You know, and that will be the kind of a map that we will use, and we'll improve it as time goes by. When we do this mapping, COVID wasn't there.
True.
So now we need to add COVID in. How much COVID influenced the future, as it were. You never know, 2 years from now, something else might have cropped up. So
Another
that plan is a big plan that we fine-tune as we go along. You know?
Okay, maybe Tan Sri Rector, you would like to share to the audience out there maybe the best advice ever that you received from someone, and your own advice to our audience, especially IUM students.
As maybe a last word to them.
Okay, I started with a family of teachers. My father is a teacher, my mother is a teacher, my sister is a teacher, I'm a teacher, my younger brother finally became a teacher. So all of us are teachers. Yeah? And the reason why we are teachers, I think I learned from my father and my mother. This is probably the best vocation that I can have. In other words, we are able to contribute to people's sort of quote unquote future, right? Making things easier for them, facilitating things, by the many things that we do, without expecting returns. I think that's the key word that my father told me. If you want to do something, you do it because you believe in it, but don't expect returns.
But it's quite hard to practice.
But if you do it sincerely now, then the returns will come. I think that's a promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes.
If you hold on to that, you're sincere about it. People may not like it. People will do this and that to you. But if you believe in your mission, I think there will be some remuneration coming to you. But it must be very strong in your principle. Stick to your gun. But that is, I think, the toughest part. When you meet the rector and the rector say jump, and you will say, you don't ask why should I jump. You will jump. So you say how many feet. You quickly want to jump. So we need to have this engagement, as it were, so that it becomes real as far as delivering education is concerned.
Okay. So maybe Rector, you have a last word to share, or maybe about 40th celebration.
Yeah, I think the last word is we are facing the 40th anniversary next year, and I think 40 is a number that means a lot in Islam. The Prophet becomes a prophet at the age of 40. Things change by then. So I'm hoping that kind of inflection will come. That how can you make IIUM a better university? Not that it's not good, but how can we make it better for the next 40 years? What can we contribute? How can we be proud of it? And how can we work together to achieve that dream, as it were, of Rahmatan lil Alamin, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you so much, Tan Sri, for sparing your precious time to join our humble show tonight.
Thanks for inviting.
Oh, no problem.
Thanks a lot.
It was
for
our
joining us
honor to have you here.
Yeah, I think that's the insightful information and sharing to all might be very useful to us. Yeah.
Inshallah, we'll try to practice all of those in our life in the future. So, with that being said, I would like to thank all the viewers out there for tuning into The Art of Life. Embrace the possible. In this opportunity, I would like to thank my partner here, Ifa, for being a great partner for me tonight. And I would like to thank Jihad, our producer, and everyone involved in the making of this show, The Art of Life, Embrace the Possible. A really great infotainment show, and thank you so much for all your hard work, everyone.
And I would like to thank all the crews that made the show The Arts of Life Embrace the Possible a success, and not to forget all the guests that we have, our physical guests here, invited throughout this whole show for all the wonderful and insightful knowledge and experience that have shared upon us. And with that being said, don't forget to give tonight's episode a big thumbs up, and since tonight's episode is a final episode, don't forget to catch our previous episodes on IIUMTV's YouTube channel and Facebook page.
Yes, and last but not least, do not forget to follow IIUMTV on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and also LinkedIn.
Alright, we'll see you again next time, inshallah, with more epic topics and more amazing guests. I am Ifa.
And I am Nakibah, only on The Art of Life.
Embrace the Possible.
Yes, by IIUMTV. Assalamualaikum and good night, everyone.
Good night.